The top 5
What?
Stone Cold
What?
Steve Austin
What?
wrestling cards. What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Cards. Today is the first video in a new series, the top 5. And I know there's other people out there that do top 5, top 10. We do the top 3 on the Worlds Collide podcast. But I just wanted to start doing kind of some top cards of specific talents and diving in on those. This will be a new playlist started featuring my personal top 5 favorites of these specific talents. And it could even venture into some other wrestling related topics, who knows. But today we're getting things kicked off possibly the most correct way we could. One of the top drawing wrestling attractions ever, the rattlesnake.
If they want some answers, they should have sent someone with some authority.
Or should I say the stunning one?
A metamorphosis will occur, and the creation that emerges is a new, improved Steve Austin.
Or perhaps Steve-a-mania?
You're Steve Austin! You know, that's where you're wrong, Mean Joey, because Steve Austin doesn't have what it takes to get it done in the ECW, brother.
Either way, I'm going to talk about my top 5 Steve Austin wrestling cards. And keep in mind, again, this is my top 5. Not the 5 most popular, not the 5 most valuable.
Not just a spot, not a liver spot, not a spot like your dog spot.
My top 5.
My spot.
What, in my opinion, are the top 5 Steve Austin cards. And I'll break down each one of these cards and explain why the specific cards are so important to me and why they fall where they fall on the list. But before we get into this first ever top 5 video, just a quick reminder of how you can help show your support for my content, everything I'm putting out there. You're already here. Easiest thing you can do is hit the subscribe button, give me a like, and share this video, this channel, with a friend, a collector, a wrestling fan, anybody you think that would appreciate it, let them know about it. And when this video is done, or you can hit pause now and check it out if you want, make sure to check all of the links in the show notes for all of the ways you can show your support. There's Patreon, there's the eBay store, all my social media links are down there, links to the Worlds Collide podcast, the Wrestling with Cards, my solo podcast, and much, much more. You could check that out at your own leisure. Again, it's all in the show notes. But let's get this started. Top 5 Steve Austin cards. Okay, so I have to do an honorable mention because as collectors, as fans of these things, it's so hard to do the Mount Rushmore or the top 5 or the top 10. So there's always going to be those stragglers that maybe need to be talked about. So here's some honorable mention cards. 2001 Fleer Get Real KB Toys number 4. This one's all about nostalgia and the connection with me, with wrestling, and the KB toy stores in the 90s. I can still remember, like it was yesterday, going into these stores and raiding those clearance bins, those 3 for $10 or 2 for $5, and getting all the wrestling figures I could. Buying up packs of discounted junk wax or non-sport cards. But one memory that really stands out to me, and it actually connects Steve Austin with this video, but it's not even card related, is the WWF Warzone game that came out for PlayStation 1 back in the day. I remember going in and pre-ordering that, seeing Steve Austin on the cover being like, this is one of the first WWF games you can break tables in. There's cage matches, weapons. I think there was blood in it. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I had to have it. It was right in the middle of the Attitude Era boom. So being able to tie Steve Austin with KB Toys, that memory, and basically all my memories of KB and, you know, growing up as a kid with toys and action figures and toy stores, wrestling on TV, cartoons on TV, it just ties it all together for me. It's all about nostalgia and memories. 1999 Comic Images SmackDown Chromium number 42. Just a perfect shot to sum up the Attitude Era here. It's a feud that really helped turn wrestling around completely. As for the card itself, it's shiny, it's chromium, it's got a little bit of that gold finish, even though it's not technically a gold card, but we know how everybody loves gold cards. And if you look very closely in that gold section, you could see that there's a bunch of tiny skulls that make up this segment, which fits right in with Steve Austin's logo, the smoking skull. 1993 WCW Yearbook Magazine card number 10. So this card was really hot for a while. I would say probably like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, when wrestling cards kind of started taking off. But it seemed to lose some steam since then. But I still love this card. It's a little bit harder to find because it is one of those magazine cards. It's not one of the traditional ones you could get in the pack that were overproduced in the 90s. These magazines are harder to find in general. And it's also condition sensitive, with it being the perforated card. You've got to be very careful about tearing out. And I've spoke before, these perforated cards are graded by many of the most popular grading companies out there. I think the grading has something to do with the perforated edges and all the little nubs that are on there, so you don't want to take scissors to these. But this card just sends me right back to the early to mid 90s, before the Nitro Monday Night era. and all the syndicated WCW that I used to watch. Shows like Worldwide or Pro, or I believe Main Event maybe was one of them, and you would see Steve Austin on there as like the TV champion or just working some squash matches. That whole era, that's what this card sums up for me. Not to mention, Steve Austin was on the cutting edge of hairstyles, as Ric Flair would later adopt this Dutch boy hairstyle. Number 5, 2020 Topps Chrome Fantasy Matchups, card number FM19, Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens. This card actually bumped the WCW magazine out of the 5 spot when I got this in hand. I've been looking for one for a while and finally found one, and it jumped right into this spot. This is a moment card for me. What I mean by that is, little did Topps know they would be predicting the future of what would be a massive moment in wrestling history. Not to mention, are they actually possibly predicting another one of these fantasy matchups that we could see soon? So again, this one is a significant moment in time for me, a moment in the card. Not only was it Steve Austin's last match, but also most likely the last time we're going to see Vince McMahon get physically involved in the ring. And I talked previously in the honorable mention section about the correlation between Steve Austin and Vince McMahon and how that really turned wrestling around in the 90s. And even though Vince McMahon's not featured on this card represents that moment where they basically faced off and Vince took that stunner one last time. The hype surrounding the WrestleMania 38 confrontation between Steve Austin and Kevin Owens and everything built around it. Was Austin actually going to have a match? Was he going to get physically involved with Kevin Owens? Or was it just going to be like a promo and a stunner, one and done, get out of there, pop the crowd? None of us knew, but I was pleasantly surprised as I watched the match unfold. It was a ton of fun, gift wrapped in nostalgia. But as for this specific card, now I know it seems like a lot of, well, I'll just say the hobby in general, because it's not just wrestling card collectors, it's sports card collectors as well. They just don't view the inserts like the base card. But this one is just too perfect. I love the images they used, the spacey background, the what if story that they printed on the back of the card, and again, the fact that it truly represents a huge moment in wrestling history. And while the base card is cool, you know how I roll. I've got to go after those parallels. I actually got the gold. I know. I've said I don't like gold. It's not that I don't like gold. The golds are okay. It's just that I get tired of seeing that people post only gold parallels is what it seems like that people post. They don't, you're not seeing a lot of blacks, a lot of the aquas, a lot of the reds, a lot of the oranges. I mean, you do, but I think you know what I mean. So I went with the gold, but mainly it was because that was the only one available. I couldn't find, at the time I purchased, any other type of parallel of this card, which two things went off. Number one, it was gold. It was an affordable price. I thought it was a no-brainer pickup, even if I decide to sell it down the road, which I'm not going to be doing that for a while, again, because it's a moment in time that is huge representation for me personally. But also the fact that, okay, if there's 50 base cards out there and they're, $5 or less a piece, but there's only one parallel out there and it's a gold, but like there was no blacks, there was no reds, there was no greens at the time. I was like, okay, I've got to buy this because that signifies that this card in a parallel form is a little bit harder to find in general. Also, a fun added chase to this card is if you could locate one that's numbered to 38. And why 38? Because this is the representation of the match that took place, WrestleMania 38. We know how sports cards and jersey matches work with, say, a player's number 1 and you get the card that's a number 1 out of whatever. Those seem to have more of a collectability and have more of a market. Those are always going to be priced higher than any other number in that set. So this is just kind of a fun way to do that with wrestling and add that extra element of chase that you could be looking for. 2001 Fleer WrestleMania Signature Moves autograph. The first numbered and pack pullable autograph card of Steve Austin. Only 500 of these were produced, and the image represented on this card is perfect for the era that it came out. He was still Austin. People loved him. But for me, this era, I didn't care for as much as like 97, 98. And honestly, my only nitpick with this card is for a signature, I would have preferred the full Stone Cold Steve Austin. Maybe the inscription of the Austin 316, but these are just signed Austin 316. I just feel like it's missing something to me personally. But that being said, this is a huge card in the history of wrestling cards for Stone Cold Steve Austin. 1995 cards. WCW main event. The first ever pack pullable Stone Cold Steve Austin card. Some say it's his rookie card, some disagree. Frankly, I could care less about that argument anymore. I don't like to waste time on it. But here's why I like this card. Again, it's pure nostalgia, sending me back to those early to mid 90s of that WCW era. But this one shows Steve flying through the air, about to splash Sting of all people. And first off, when is the last time that Steve Austin went flying through the air for anything? Okay, well maybe there was that moment. He just isn't a high risk off the top rope kind of wrestler. So to have this shot and Sting in there as well, I think it's perfect. I think this could also be the commodity card to look for with Steve Austin. There are a ton of them out there, so getting them in high grades is going to be what a lot of people want to go after. They're easy to get into. A lot of them are bought and sold in varying degrees from raw up to, the highest grades all the time. So I think this card, specifically the graded versions, will be a good barometer on, how the market of these move and the popularity. 1991 Chromie. A lot of people hate this card, but I got 3 reasons I want to talk about why I love it. Number 1, nostalgia. Here we go again. That seems to be the driving word with some of my favorite things on this video. This takes me back to his USWA days.
Time ago, and you have just been named Rookie of the Year.
Exactly. I am the Rookie of the Year for 1990, and things have been going real well for me and Jeannie.
This image represents a humble beginnings, and man, does he look stunning in this picture. The second reason I love this card is that it is the first appearance card of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not gonna sit here and debate the rookie card thing, but it is his first card. And the third reason that I like this card is that basically this card design stole the WCW 91 Impel design. A design and a card set that is very famous at this point. It is a WCW product, and it did come out in the same year as that Impel set. So could this have just been maybe some lazy design where, hey, it worked over here, let's take it into a foreign release? Or because it was released in Argentina, is this maybe something they just stole the design, made their own cards, and then put them out? I'm not sure. But all I know is it's full of 90s awesomeness. Topps Transcendent Autographs. Topps Transcendent is the cream of the crop when it comes to Topps WWE wrestling cards. And I'm not discriminating against any of these cards. Pick any card with Steve Austin autographs on it from any of the Transcendent sets, and you've got a winner. I just love the designs of these cards. The gold border around it is great. The signatures generally look awesome. They all hold their value really well, and people seem to really love these cards. Now, obviously, I'm fond of the 2021 Transcendent featuring the 1/1 Steve Austin Superfractor Auto. That would be my favorite if I had to pick one. Shout out to Drake Magruder at Drake's PC. I actually had a video with him talking about these Transcendent Superfractors. You can go check that out there. But he's got this card, and it's probably locked up forever. I hope you guys enjoyed this video looking at my top 5 favorite Stone Cold Steve Austin cards. What are your favorite 5 Steve Austin cards? I'd love to hear about it. Make sure you leave a note in the comments. List your top 5 and why you like them. And please feel free to share this video on social media. You can tag me in it if you want. Spread the word about this video and this channel. And let everybody know, what are your top 5 Steve Austin cards in your personal preference. And once again, before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give me a like once again if you haven't already. And make sure to check out all the links in the show notes to all of the ways that you can help show your support for the content that I'm continuing to put out for you. And until next time, hit the videos on the screen if you want more great wrestling card content to fill the void. I'll see you next time.